today's watch review, we're going to be talking about the Seiko Flightmaster SNA411. So let's jump right into it. Let's go ahead and do a quick 360 just so you can see what we're dealing with here, and also just to see how it looks like in different angles of lighting. Very simple case back. A little bit disappointing to that end, but not a deal breaker. As far as dimensions go, this is a very reasonably sized watch. Let's go ahead and see what the diameter is from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 41.7, and then with the crown, 45.3, and then for a thickness, just with the bezel to the case back, we're looking at 11 millimeter thickness. The crystal is slightly domed past the bezel, so including the crystal, we're looking at about 13 millimeters thickness right there. So very reasonable. As far as weight goes, we're looking at a total weight of 163 grams, or just over 5.5 ounces. And that's probably because of the stainless steel body and band. So not light, but definitely not heavy at all. Here we go with the wrist shot. Keep in mind I have a 7.5 inch wrist here at the base, and then about 8 inches right here. So I do have a larger wrist, and I think it looks perfectly fine on my hand, or sorry, on my wrist. And I think it'll look just fine for those of you with thinner or more slender wrists as well. Now going over the functions and features, starting off, we've got a bidirectional bezel right here. It's non-ratcheting, it's just a friction bezel, but it's smooth and solid. I do like how it feels when I turn the bezel. Also, we've got 3 subdials at the 12, 9, and 6 o'clock position. The 12 o'clock subdial is your chronometer. It measures up to 60 minutes. At the 9 o'clock position is your second hand, and the 6 o'clock position is your alarm. But that subdial can also be used as a second time zone if you so choose to use it that way. On the side, we've got the start and stop button and reset button right here. These are locking buttons, so basically you have to unscrew the crown in order to use them. And that just increases its reliability for water resistance. The crown itself is also a screw down crown, so always a good thing. And as always with all Seikos, we've got fantastic lume on most of the indices and the minute and hour hand as well. For water resistance, we are talking about 200 meters or 660 feet. On that beautifully domed crystal, we're looking at a Hardlex crystal. I think I would have preferred sapphire. For me, I will always prefer sapphire, but Hardlex is also an acceptable crystal to have on any watch. As far as the internals go, we've got a battery operated quartz movement. It is the Seiko 7T62 quartz movement. And just doing some quick research online, it has a very reliable track record, and it is rated for about 3 years of life until you need to swap out the battery. And 3 years, I think that's average, nothing to complain about. I think that's long enough to really get a lot of use from any watch. So now that we've had the watch sitting in sunlight for a little bit, let's go ahead and check out that lume. And there you have it. There's that fantastic Seiko lume. It will last a majority of the night, and no complaints here. Now let's just go ahead and show you how that yellow second hand looks like when you are using the chronometer. So we're going to go ahead and screw out both of these crowns so we can use the buttons. You've got a beautiful sweeping movement for the second hand, and that's always just a beautiful thing to observe. It does have the split time functionality as well as first and second place finishers if you are doing some type of race. Now just going over my personal thoughts. I think that at a price point of about $250, which is what I paid for on jomashop.com, I'm getting a lot of value for what I paid. With the 7T62 quartz movement, which is a reliable movement, and I've had no issues with it at all, that's where the value comes from. You know, the materials, they're all standard, nothing special here. The stainless steel case and bracelet with a, you know, cheap stamped steel fold over clasp, nothing special here, but the movement is great, and the movement goes for about $70. So at $250, you know, just over 25% of the money you're spending is in the movement, and I think that's a fantastic thing. Going over some negatives, the one thing that I don't like, which is actually a great thing about the watch, are these screw down locking buttons. You know, they really do increase the reliability of the watch, but at the same time, it's a little bit inconvenient to have to unscrew those buttons whenever I do need to use the stopwatch function. But again, that's my personal preference. At the end of the day, it's a wonderful feature to have in a watch. The only other negative that I could find is the bracelet itself. If you see where the clasp is, it's almost as if they picked the wrong buckle or the wrong clasp for the bracelet. See how it's one dimension here and then it slims out here? Let's go ahead and measure that actually. So on the bracelet, it's so about 21 millimeters, and then right here it shrinks down to almost 1 millimeter, and that's not a huge deal, but it's noticeable, and it kind of bothers me. But again, personal preference. That's just something, you know, that's pinging on my OCD. I think they definitely could have done a better job on the bracelet. One more thing to bring up, if you've seen this online, you've noticed that a lot of people customize their Flightmasters with Nato Bands. And I noticed that this watch is not very conducive to a Nato band, because you see how the top portion of the case kind of lips over the bottom. And so unless you find a very thin Nato strap, it's going to be very difficult to put one on here. Just something I've noticed and something that I'd like to share with you. But I will tell you, it looks phenomenal with an OD green Nato strap. So that's about it for the review and my personal thoughts. I know that I expressed some things that bothered me, but again, remember, those are just personal thoughts. Objectively, this is a fantastic watch, very reliable. You really can't go wrong with it. Plus, it looks fantastic. The yellow second hand and that black dial, it looks a little bit busy, but still very clean and elegant. Highly recommend for anybody who's interested in getting this one. You really can't go wrong with it. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helps you with your next watch purchase. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. All right, bye.